Kevin Graham puts a smile on all our faces before we go live on the Acsom Bulletin. Here we are. It's match day or match night. And I'm joined, it's a couple of tag teams here. I don't know if the top two are the Bushwhackers. I'm not sure what you two guys are doing the bottom. But what I can see is plenty 1980s terrace clobber. I can see Ben Sherman, Adidas and Sergio Tacchini. Lads, you look like he's up for a rock tonight. What's going on? I'll start with you, Kev.
A virtual hug or a virtual rug. I don't know.
Well,
you need to call us Kev 1 or 2.
I normally call him my man in Budapest, even though it doesn't rhyme. That's what Kev McCluskey is normally called. And we've got, obviously, Lawrence Conley, who very rarely leaves the house wearing something that isn't green. So here we go. It's Motherwell. It's a big one. There's a couple of fixtures before we close up for a wee break and a sojourn over to Australia for Angie's homecoming. That has ruffled a few feathers. And I'm going to start with you, Lawrence Connolly. Stevie Clarke isn't happy that we are not releasing our players. What's your thoughts?
I couldn't care what Stevie Clarke thinks, to be honest. Celtic's allowed not to release their players. What? We're exercising that right. At the end of the day, Celtic players, we pay their wages. We've got an event in Australia that we deem it more important to have our players there. And Stevie can mump him on all they want. Complaining that Celtic are doing something they're allowed to do.
No, you're right.
Stevie.
Yeah, you're spot on. I'm going to ask yourself, Kevin McCluskey, because the way I view this is we are obviously contractually obliged to take part in the Sydney Cup, and we're going to be doing that. We're also going over to engage with our Australian fan base, so it's not as though this is a jolly. This is a big deal for Celtic, and Ange Postecoglou being at the helm. And what you don't want to do is send over a reserve team. Now, listen, I know there was maybe only 4 people in the running. One is the club captain. And I'm thinking to myself, well, like Lawrence says, we're within our rights. It's an international friendly. What's the big hoo-ha about this?
I'm in the same opinion of Lawrence in this one. We're within our rights to deny the players the chance to go or to refuse to release them. For me, I didn't even know Scotland were playing, to be honest with you. That's how little I'd been paying attention to that side of things. And from a Celtic point of view, it's far more important for us to keep our players in the squad together for this event because, one, this is like a mini pre-season for us and we want to use it as professionally as we can to come back after January and you're going out there to kind of showcase Celtic to the Australian market. So you want to take your best players. It's a commercial thing for us as much as anything. So I'm totally on board with us keeping the players for our use because, as Lawrence says, we pay their wages. It's friendly games for Scotland that don't really mean a thing. It's actually a chance for Steve Clarke to blood some new players in the Scotland team and see how they get on. So, he could take that as an advantage to him. But Celtic point of view, they're our players, we keep them.
I totally agree with that. And again, it just seems to be any time, Kevin Graham, that the press or anyone else out there can give Celtic a kick in, they're only too happy to do it. That's the way it feels to me at the minute. Anyway, Kev Graham, I know you're a big Scotland fan. You follow the national team. What's your thoughts on this?
I followed them that much. I was a bit like Kevin McCluskey there. I didn't have a clue that Scotland were playing a friendly against Turkey next week. The bottom line is...
It's not a good thing to be like me. I don't encourage it.
I suppose you didn't want to be like anybody for Tullibody, mate, but you've improved slightly going to Budapest. Definitely going to Budapest. No, Celtic haven't released any players that are not going to the World Cup. Celtic are only need to release players that are going to the World Cup. This game next week's not a recognised international break. So Celtic have got no point, no need to actually release players. If Scotland were in the World Cup, then the players would be in that squad because Celtic would be contractually obliged to actually let them go. But they're not. It's a bounce game against Turkey. I would rather the lads go to Australia, spend a couple of weeks with Ange in the warm weather and set us up for when we come back in December. That's it. I don't ken why we've played an awful lot of football. the footballers have played an awful lot of football at a certain level if you've been playing in Europe and that as well. And chucking in another international friendly just seemed pretty pointless, and you're trying to flog horses that are already getting flogged to an inch of their lives anyway. Yeah? So I take them to Australia. I'm not really that bored about what Steve Clarke. I like Steve Clarke. I didn't want Steve Clarke anywhere near my football club, but I like him as an international manager. I think he suits being an international manager. Look, he's just beating a drum for himself, and the should want to be journalists will just use it to have a go at Celtic just because we're earning £6 million.
Yeah. I mean, again, it is one of the ones, it looks as though we're all in agreement, but we haven't yet got a tag team name for the two boys down the bottom. I'm just looking at the 50 top WWF tag teams of all time, and I'm looking at guys like the Hart Foundation. Remember Bret the Hitman Hart? I think Kevin McClusky's got a wee bit of look about him. I don't know what your pecs are like there, Kev, but Kev and I are definitely the Bushwhackers. You could also be the Legions of Doom as well. So, you know, you can make your mind up. Give us your suggestions in the comments field. We want to get you involved as soon as possible. You and Boy Martin, hail to all the troops. Absolutely. And we've also got plenty more coming through on the chat. So we've had a wee chat about the SFA. Stevie Clarke moaning, bumping his gums about Celtic not releasing the players. Let's have a wee chat about Celtic now and tonight's team. We have got the lineup, and by the time I bring this up, generally everybody has seen the lineup, but we'll do it in any case, just in case someone out there hasn't seen Celtic starting 11. Here we go. It's Hart, Juranovic, Carter Vickers, Starfelt and Taylor, O'Reilly, Hatate and Moy, Abada, Jota and Kyogo. On the bench, Siegrist, Jens, Giacomakis, Haksabanovic, Turnbull, Abligor, Maeda, Forrest and Ralston. Now, I'm going to have to remove that because we can't see our man, Lawrence, wearing his Sergio Tacchini. We better remove that. There we go. We might start getting complaints. Let's start off with Joe Hart. A few weeks back, Lawrence, he was getting a bit of stick. The gaffer stuck with him, and it looks as though he's played through that, and he's back to the Joe Hart that we know and love.
Joe Hart getting sticky. Golden Gloves winner, you know. Premier League winner. Yeah, you know, easily the best keeper at the club, and people are giving him stick.
He did make a few howlers, though. He did have a few howlers, Lawrence.
He's been here, what, many months now? 15, 16 months?
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a couple of howlers and he gets stick. I don't know, mate. I think it's just a bit fickle. I think he's easily the best keeper at the club just now. Definitely get another season out of him. You know, we might be having a look at in the summer bringing in someone else. I don't know if Siegrist is going to be number one, but yeah, just now, no surprise that he plays. Big surprise for me is Starfelt coming in ahead of Jens. Yeah,
well, Celtic follower mentions that, and we'll be talking about that as well, Lawrence. But on the subject of goalkeepers, then, lads, at what point does Toby Obawalemi get a shout? I heard they played particularly well against Real Madrid, kept the score down. It could have been a lot more. He's highly rated. He's third choice. At what point? You know, obviously Hart will eventually come to the end of his cycle. The two Kevs, have you got a view on that? When do we give someone like that? When do we bleed someone like that? And when is it a good time? Because all I ever keep hearing is you just can't, because we need to win every game, and every game's a winning, you know. And that's fine, because that's my mentality as well. But when do you bring in a young goalie or a young player into this side?
I'll go first, Kev, in Budapest.
Please
Big Toby, the couple of times that I've seen him, looks like the the love child of Ian Andrews.
Before you go into that, you avoided using his surname as well, Kev, so I thought
yes,
whatever
definitely.
you were going to say would be a breeze.
Aye, I know. Every time I've seen him, he hasn't looked up to it, truthfully. I would like to see him going out on loan. I think Siegrist has done well when he's came in. He's obviously getting the cup games, and he's likely to play against Kilmarnock in the League Cup semi-final. I just can't believe we're talking about dropping Joe Hart. I mean, as Ange Postecoglou rightly says, we can improve in every single area of the pitch. Mm-hmm. But as Lawrence rightly says, I think Joe Hart deserves the number one spot, and I don't think I think he's the best goalkeeper at the club at the moment. That may change. But at the moment, Joe Hart is Celtic's number one. Yes, Joe Hart's got a howler in him. That's how he ended up at Celtic.
I agree. I think I'm not calling for him to get dropped. Absolutely not. What's your thoughts, Kevin Budapest?
Kevin Budapest is he's going to join the consensus on that one and say at the moment Joe Hart's the best keeper.
Are we just going to agree?
I'm sorry.
Can we have an argument?
Do you know what? Where's Scott Bain? I'd have him in the team.
Where is Scott?
By
the way, on the subject, on the subject of goalies, though,
team, Lawrence.
Aye, that's right. On the subject of keepers, we've obviously got Hazard coming back. He's went away on loan and he's done well. Kev, you suggested that young Toby should go out on loan. I don't disagree with that. Get out there at a good level. You know, Hazard's gone away and won a league title, and he's coming back. And the other keeper that's out on loan, what's his name, Barkas, he's done all right, and it could end up that he gets a permanent move because he's done well. So he's actually added a wee bit of value, I would suggest, onto his transfer fee because of the performance. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, Kev. I think Toby would benefit from a loan deal elsewhere. Interestingly enough, here we go. We've got Mark coming in. Welcome to the show. Motherwell's 12 man. I think this one's for Lawrence. His column in their 13th is antiques expert, mahogany finished David Dickinson. Remember he was in the Celebrity Jungle? David Dickinson. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He was, wasn't he? I don't now, but I did back then, and he definitely was in it. Because I was talking to Colin Watt earlier this week, and I thought, you know, with the jungle terminology and all that, there could well be a Celtic one. There certainly could be a Celtic one. But the question was, which females would you send into it? Into the jungle?
The Celtic jungle?
Aye.
The centre, prima Daniela Galabadarici.
Wow,
You've been
Lawrence.
You've been practicing that. You have been practicing that. Yeah. Who in the Acsom team would do well in the jungle?
No problem.
I'm trying to think. Colin would watch it. Colin likes all these reality TV programmes, so he would watch it.
John Hughes.
I'm going to say John Hughes.
Aye.
Definitely. He would rule the jungle.
He would not blink under the pressure, under the challenges. He wouldn't blink.
Especially if he was in with...
I think Kev Graham would be good in the jungle, actually. I'd
Nah.
go for him.
No danger, mate. No danger.
He'd get jailed. You'd get the jungle jail, mate. You just keep falling out with other people in the Celtic fraternity, I've heard.
I do, yes, I really do. I don't think I'm allowed in Australia. I don't think that's off my record yet.
Let's not go there, Kev. Graham. Kevin, Celtic follower rather, wonder how Starfelt will handle his return tonight. Surely Kyogo, Abada and Jota will give us a good lead, and Haksabanovic, Forrest and Yakimakis will come on about 70 minutes. Let's start off with Starfelt then, because he was already brought into the conversation by Lawrence. He returns to what we had kind of thought was the established first choice centre-half partnership that done so well for us last season. There's been a few permutations this time round. Kevin Graham, will start with you this time. Do you still see the two guys as being our best central defensive partnership?
I see it as Cameron Carter Vickers +1, and it seems to be that Starfelt is the one that Ange maybe favours when he's actually fully fit. Again, this just seems like a bit of rotation because Jens has played quite a lot of games and Starfelt's trying to get minutes in his legs. I mean, CCV is now, he's in the World Cup squad for the US men's national team, as they are called. I don't know why they have to put men's national team in there, but they seem to have to. So Starfelt is going to get minutes in Australia. Jens is going to play with him, and Jens is going to get minutes in Australia. I'm quite happy to see Starfelt there. I think he done well last week. I really did think he done well last week. He wasn't to blame for any of the 5 goals. So I'm quite happy to see him there. But I do see them as a first choice partnership.
Right.
I do. But I do feel that CCV, if we lose him, there is a massive drop off. But I think Starfelt is the most natural successor. If say CCV left in the summer,
right.
which I hope he doesn't. I think Starfelt's the most natural successor for what we've seen over the last year or so.
He does look more comfortable.
Starfelt and Jens, because obviously CCV's had a couple of injuries, maybe just rested him. he's naturally right-sided, Starfelt.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask, Yuki Kobayashi is apparently coming in January. So who leaves? Is this another call for maybe Stephen Welsh to get a loan deal, Lawrence Conley? It's something you've spoken about before.
Yes, I spoke about it at the beginning of the season and again on Tuesday. He's not getting enough game time to develop, is he? I think he could have a future with us, but if we've got 5 centre halves, I think that's one too many. So yeah, I think that Stephen Welsh should get out on loan. I'm assuming that we're going to buy James. I think he's been great since he came in. So yeah, get Stephen out, get him some game time, and he either proves that he's develops and he's going to be an option for us, or we then sell him on and reinvest the money in the squad. There's been plenty of interest in him, so yeah, it's the opportunity to go out and loan, get a full season with somebody under his belt, and make a decision for there.
I think you look at Mikey Johnson as an example this season. Kevin McCluskey, someone who he was at that point where we had gone on about last chance saloons with Mikey for 2-3 seasons. I had some sympathy for him because I think that his development stagnated under Neil Lennon. And then he didn't quite get going under Ange Postecoglou, and there was a combination of injuries thrown in there as well, thrown into the mix. He's gone away and he's performing well in Portugal. Do you think it's a similar scenario with Stephen Welsh, Kev? Do you think get out there for a year or so and get the game time you really need to develop as a player?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few players that's probably in that boat. Kev mentioned Toby, the keeper, as well. He's definitely one that needs to go out and get a season somewhere.
It's not going for the surname. Is it just Toby?
I think Lawrence is going to try it, but I'm not.
Although we
Definitely not. There you go.
I like it.
So, but I think Big Toby needs to go out on loan. I think Stevie Welsh needs to go out on loan to get minutes because he's clearly a good player. He just he gets 2 or 3 games at a time and then he's back out. He needs a run of games to show just how good a player he is, and that they're not like fluke games that he's just performing well in. And there's a few others that need games as well. Mikey Johnson was one. He's gone out and he seems to be doing quite well in Portugal, a league that will suit him. It suits a flair player. Then I know he's been out on loan a few times before, but guys like Robertson need to go back out if they've got any sort of a future. They need to go out to a higher level and get a season to show what they can do. And it's the way forward for Celtic. We've just not utilised the loan system well enough over the last decade or so. Because you see teams in the continent do it all the time. Players will go out on loan for a season, maybe 2 seasons, and they come back as a first-team player. And then the rare occasion that we've done it, it's been Christopher Ayer, who went out as a prospect and came back as a boy we sold on for 15 million.
Yeah. So
if we can manage the loan deals right, we can actually really benefit from that as a club. And Stevie Welsh is one I think that he could really kick on by a loan spell away.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I've been a big advocate of loaning players to other Premiership clubs. Kevin, we've seen Montgomery in the St Johnstone side that beat Rangers at the weekend. We've got a few other players out, but all the interest for Stephen Welsh, Kev, has been from overseas. We've had Udinese and Toulouse who have been interested in Welsh. And you think to yourself, getting away from the Goldfish Bowl of Scottish football can often do a player good as well. I mean, I know he didn't come back, but he went away and really developed. Jack Hendry, for example, didn't he? He went away and did the business. Are you in the same boat? Are we just going to agree on everything tonight, lads?
What I'm going to say after Ange Postecoglou's comments on Friday about us having our heroes but didn't get too attached to them, because if you want to improve, the team needs to improve. I think Kobayashi coming in is curtains for Stephen Welsh. I think also it's curtains for Mikey Johnson. And I do think any player that's on loan, maybe Montgomery, I think he might have a future. I think Stephen Welsh, if we bring in this other centre half, I think Stephen Welsh's time at Celtic's up. I think Mikey Johnson's time at Celtic's up. All the other guys that are out on loan, Shaw and all of that out on loan, the big fellas, Uragide, their time's up. Scott Robertson's not going to make it at Celtic either. And I think, looking at it now, looking at the comments, looking at where we're going, looking at how far away we are in Europe, I think these guys' time's done, and they'll have a decent career elsewhere. The only one I maybe hold a small bit of hope out for is Montgomery. My St Johnstone supporting friend Fraser loves him, says he's one of the best prospects that he's seen at St Johnstone. Whether he makes it at our level, we won't know until the summer. But I reckon Borders boy comes in. I think Scales is done as well. I don't think Scales will be back in a Celtic jersey either. But I think Montgomery will come in, get pre-season. If he's not up to it, he could be away as well. I think we're going to see a ruthless 6 months.
Yeah, the thing with Scales, I'm not sure if the future will be at Aberdeen, because we've paid a fair fee for him, $500,000, and there's very few clubs in Scotland can match that. We'd need to take a hit on him, I guess, unless he goes elsewhere. But, I'd liked some of the aspects of his game, Liam Scales, but he never played in that preferred position, did he? At centre-half that he continually spoke about, left centre-half. We've got Christopher Patterson coming, 3 points, please, Celtic, and hopefully VAR won't disrupt us too much. Let's hope, lads, we're not speaking about VAR at the end of this game. Honestly, it's one of the things that people must think that we relish all the VAR chat. I'd rather we didn't mention it, because there hasn't been an incident to talk of. Kev, you were speaking about don't get attached to your heroes. We're football fans and that's what we do, but one of the players whose name continually gets linked with moves away from Celtic is Juranovic. He starts tonight, Lawrence, at right back. Is he one of those players, when you look at his age and you look at the time to sell in terms of his pedigree, if the offers are on the table in January, do you think we'll be listening to those offers, Lawrence?
Yeah, definitely. We're never going to be a better time to sell him. His age is at. If he doesn't move now, I think his value is going to go down. You're unlikely to get any money for him. If he's a cracking World Cup, say someone comes in for, I don't know, 8 to 10 million, you'd bite the hand off, wouldn't you? You can trust Tosh and Ange to get good quality players in. So, yeah, I think he's maybe, for me, if you're looking at squad management, I think you'd be looking to get some money back on him, turn a profit on him, reinvest it.
When you look at some of the comments that Ange has made, Kevin McCluskey, in relation to the fact that he reckons we've already done all the hard work with regards to our signing targets, that would mean we need to bring in another right back, though, because it would leave us, criminally short again at right back. I mean, in terms of Juranovic, is it an age thing for you? If he was 23, you'd be kind of keen to maybe hold on to him for another year or so, but at his age and his development, his trajectory, as Lon said, World Cup, kudos, it might be the right time.
Yeah, I think so. For me, he's the one first-team player I would let go if we got a decent offer for him, and I wouldn't be too disappointed to see him leave, which I find a strange thing to even hear myself saying, because I rate him really highly. But you've got Tony Ralston now, and again, a few years ago, you'd never have thought that he's first team ready. But I would have no real problems with selling Juranovic if we could get that £8 to £10 million bid for him, because he's 27, 28. His value will only decrease from here on in, because he'll get to the end of his contract as well. So now is probably the time, if you're going to cash in at the high end, to do it. Ralston can come in. I think he could see us through to the end of the season, but I'm fairly confident as well that Ange is a clever man and he'll know the players that there's interest in. So if he's telling us that a lot of the hard work has been done, it's probably, a right back is in there as well. It's in the mix. There's a contingency. If Juranovic goes, we have a player that can come in and take over. I think he's done that in his couple of transfer windows he's had so far. He's shown that he plans ahead. So I wouldn't be overly concerned, to be honest, if it was Juranovic that had to go to raise a wee bit of funds to take us to that next level again.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I'm a big fan, Kev Graham, of Juranovic. But when you weigh up all the different, stats and all the different figures, and a big part of that, I think, is his age and the time being just right. If Matt O'Reilly got called up for a Denmark squad for this World Cup, his value would have skyrocketed, right? I don't want to lose him. I don't think the time's right to lose him. I'm not prepared. I'm not ready to leave for him to leave. I'm not ready for Jota to leave yet. But maybe Juranovic, I can understand any kind of thinking behind that. Are you in agreement with that, Kev? Or do you think that it's taken us a while to replace Mika Lustig, who retired earlier on this week, and now we've got 2 decent right backs and it might not be as easy to replace him? What's your thoughts?
I think maybe Celtic would want to hang on to him, but the bottom line is Juranovic is 27. His career trajectory has went massive in the last year since he's joined Celtic. He's been linked to other clubs. This is the best time to get a move. It's like going into Aldi's at late at night and getting something that's been knocked down in price. This is the best.
What do they call it in Aldi's? Because it's a whoopsie in Tesco, Or is that
a
Asda?
whoopsie in Tesco?
I'm not sure.
Again, I'm just getting a caramel donut that's gone out of date.
Do that, mate. I think it just made it up.
Who, me?
Aldi's do further discount things late at night. I think it is
They
like
do.
Tesco's and Sainsbury's. He's just kidding on his shops in Aldi.
I'm talking.
This guy.
I'm talking from experience here. Aldi during the week there, we're talking about the Kevin. How did I go for
Aldi's WWF and the Jungle, all in one episode.
And now I'm going to talk about Kevin the Carrot for the Aldi adverts.
Oh,
right,
Kev.
Kevin the Carrot.
You're confused.
I know. Kevin the Carrot for the Aldi adverts, right?
Kevin is not even Hungarian.
They were talking about a Swede, the turn-up, and Aldi posted, this is the best Swede since.
Oh,
and
I
they
saw
posted
that.
a picture of Henrik Larsson.
Brilliant.
So that's why.
I thought that was brilliant.
So a day shop in Aldi and you do get.
Did you remind Aldi that there's a poetry book about Henrik? Did you take that as an opportunity to promote your book?
I didn't manage to squeeze that in there, but I probably will. I think Juranovic will be pushing for. I think Juranovic's agent will be pushing for a move because you've got to strike with iron's hot. You just have to look at a number of players. I didn't like talking about them, but you've got Ben Kamara, Ryan Kent, Morelos, who were all good 18 months ago and now are ranked rotten. And Juranovic is. The agents are looking at these boys going, Barsi as well. Great 4 months. Aye, let's get out of here. Let's actually, if folk are interested, there's a time and place to actually move. Juranovic has been a middling fullback until Legia Warsaw. He's came to us, his trajectories went up. I think his agent will be looking to move him on. Maybe not the club, but the club will be making stuff in the background to do it. And CTC remind me why I don't watch this channel anymore. Insight of a 12-year-old. I would love to have an insight to a 12-year-old. I would love to have the insight of a 12-year-old.
But Kev, you must be watching it to make the comment. I mean, come on, man. Are you not allowed to have a wee bit of chat that isn't just about the starting 11? Well, I'm sorry to inform you that that is what we're doing tonight. We are having a wee chat, and you know what? It's quite relaxed. So chill.
Chris McCarthy asked me if we punt all these Scottish players, what would we do? How do we get round the home grow talent rules if we punt all these guys, Kev? You promote guys like Rocco Vata.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's how you do it. That's how you get round it.
I'll tell you what though, right? I mean, see, next week I'm doing in Manchester for the National Awards again. We're up for another one. So I don't know who that was that thinks that we'll have the insight of a 12-year-old, but other people independent of Celtic media disagree, I'm afraid, right? So I just want to stick that one in your pipe and you can smoke it, because I know that gets up the nostrils of quite a few people. O'Reilly, Hatate and Moy. Moy has been called up for Australia. However, Tommy Rogic hasn't. Lawrence doesn't care about Tommy Rogic anymore. I heard them saying that the other day.
But now he's dead to me.
Right, he's dead. Listen, is it not bizarre, right, that Tommy Rogic isn't in that squad, but Jason Cummings is? That's
a view of a 12-year-old, Lawrence.
It could well be, mate.
Was it anything to do with us being the Bushwhackers? I'm not sure. Anyway, he doesn't watch it, but he obviously watched it for a moment to type that in. Kev McCluskey, I'll ask you then, because Lawrence doesn't care. Rogic is dead to him now. For me, I was a wee bit, not upset, I was disappointed for Tommy and delighted for Aaron Moy. Fair play to Moy. I mean, he got a bit of stick when he first came to Celtic as well. He's going to the World Cup. Rogic hasn't. Is it just down to his bad decision making? Took too long to get a club?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel sorry for him that he's not making it, because a player of his quality should be at a World Cup. But he had 2 or 3, 4 months, whatever it was, to find a club, and he somehow didn't manage to do it. So he's played himself out of a World Cup by not signing for a club and not getting his game time. For Aaron Moy, well done to him. He's in the squad. I've not been overly impressed with him in every game that he's played for us, but I can see he's got a role in the team. And he's a big player for Australia, the way they play. So I think he was always going to make their squad as long as he was playing fairly regularly. Aye, but no, Tommy's not dead to me, Lawrence. I still love him to bits. And I'd love to have seen him in that World Cup, because a player of his quality deserves to be there. But it is his own doing that he's not there.
Angelo Tyro is keeping his poster. Absolutely. Now, you know what? We might not appeal to other people who don't have the insight of a 12-year-old, but Gary Buckets is watching all the way from the USA, and he loves the chat. So there you go. That means a lot more than the snipers. So thanks everybody for getting involved. I don't know if Kev was just itching to say something else before we went to the action. No, he's happy. Tommy Rogic is dead to Lawrence. That is the learning from the first part of tonight's Matchday Bulletin. We are facing Motherwell. We're away to watch the action, and we'll see you at half time. Thanks everybody for getting involved with the Celtic